Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm here today to talk about Resident Evil Retribution. Oh my gosh, we are almost at the end of the Resident Evil franchise for 31 Days of Horror 2019. So very exciting. This is the penultimate film. It is the fifth film out of six films in terms of the live action series, and it is the series that I've chosen to focus on this year for 31 Days of Horror. Every year I try to pick one horror series I have seen some but not all of, so I can rewatch all of the ones that I've seen and then fill in the blanks and then complete a series. And this year it was Resident Evil was the choice. And I thought I hadn't seen this, but as it turns out, I had, which is pretty unusual. I am very surprised that I didn't remember that I had seen this one, but I had. I had. Okay. So before I get into the details of the film, I do have to mention that this will be a spoiler-y review, not only for the first four films in the franchise, because it's hard to talk about a fifth film without talking about the first four, but also just generally, I feel like what I want to talk about this film is really very much how it's structured in the context and the settings and stuff like that, and I can't think of a way to talk about that without spoiling that. So if that feels spoilery to you, or if casting feels spoilery to you, then this is a better video watched after you've seen the film. So let's get to the details of Resident Evil Retribution. This was written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. He has written all of the films in the series so far, and he also directed both the first film as well as the fourth film, so he comes back in for the fifth one. The cast, we have lots of returning cast in this one, lots of familiar faces. Of course, we have Milla Jovovich, and then we also have Sienna Gilroy, who comes back. She was in the second film. She is Valentine. She was also at the very end of the fourth film, sort of leading into this one. Bingbing Li is in this. This is the first out of the series that she's in. Michelle Rodriguez reprises her role kind of from the first film, which I'll talk about. And Boris Kodjko from Afterlife, and then Oded Fair from Apocalypse and Extinction reprises his role, and then we have Sean Roberts, who plays the sort of evil corporate dude from Afterlife, Extinction, and I don't remember if he was in the first and second films or not. I gotta say, I don't remember that. And then new for this film, we have Kevin Durand, who I am such a huge fan of. I love Kevin Durand. Yeah, which led me to think, and a couple of locations led me to think, because this one, some of it looked kind of familiar, and it was definitely filmed a lot. It might have been filmed exclusively in Ontario, and some of it was filmed in Toronto. I definitely recognized the sort of fake base station, the subway station. There's like an additional, I think under base station, there's another base station, which is used for training and a lot of filming. So a lot of like a lot of subway filming ends up being there. So, and then I looked at some of the locations on IMDb, and there was a lot in Ontario. Anyway, side note, it's just cool when you recognize something. And Apocalypse was filmed in Toronto too, so it was just, you can't help, I don't know why, but I find it's like one of those things that you just can't help but point out the things that you recognize. Why do we do this? I don't know. Familiarity breeds like feeling like you know something better. But do you know something better? I don't know. Anyway, this film came out in 2012. It is definitely a horror film. It is definitely an action film. It is a zombie film per se, but I feel like it wasn't super much about the zombies, this one, too much. I gave it actually a 7 out of 10, or a 2.5 to a 3 out of 5, and it did not get a heart. I am so sad to say, especially with so many returning characters, that this one was I was not a huge fan of. So this one I actually found kind of confusing. I'm gonna admit it, I found it confusing. I did not literally understand some of the plot, which I feel very surprised to say. Now, I watched it, like, I had watched a lot of movies that day and I was pretty tired, but I had already seen it. And I didn't even remember that I had seen it until there was a scene with Michelle Rodriguez driving a car. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny because she's from Fast and Furious. And there was like it was like kind of driving. And I was like, huh, that feels kind of familiar. But she's in plainclothes in suburbia. How is it? That feels familiar. And so I gotta say, I did not really understand this movie. did not really understand this movie because we have Milo often as the film, she explains that she's from the Umbrella Corporation. She wakes up, something happens, and then we actually, and then there's a scene, like some kind of actiony scene, and then we get to the real start of the real movie. So, but this one, we have like, it felt like a dream sequence of her being married to Oded Fehr, and then there's a girl, a child, they have a daughter, but then zombies, and then outbreak, and chaos, right? So I felt like that was a dream, but then I wasn't sure if it was a dream because the daughter character was a real person. But then there's also all of these simulations, like the Umbrella Corporation set up like fake Tokyo and fake Russia and fake suburbia to run as simulations. And I always thought that, like, I initially thought that they were like virtual reality, but then it turns out that they were physical locations. So, like, she's there, like Mila's character is there to like take down the Umbrella Corporation, as always, but she got captured by them. And then they did the whole opening sequence was like a visual explanation of what happened at the end of the fourth film, but it was done in reverse because stylistically that was more interesting, I guess. So I was like, okay, so they get on the boat and then like it feels like hopeful, and then it turns out that Umbrella Corporation was just calling out for survivors so they can steal them and test on them, which we found out at the end of the fourth film. But then I'm not quite sure what happened because Mila goes into the water and then she wakes up somewhere else, which is why I thought it was a dream or a virtual reality. But then she actually is in a physical location because there's something about her and how the T cells react to her that, you know, Umbrella wants to exploit and understand because it doesn't work for other people. And so, like, there were so many confusing things. Like, and I gotta say, I was sad to see that Ali Larter and Wentworth Miller were not in this film. I really enjoyed the characters of Claire and Chris. So I was really sad to see that they weren't in this film. Although I did really enjoy seeing the reprisals of other characters in this. I thought a lot of them were underused, especially Michelle Rodriguez and Oded Fehr. Like, they were in it, but not for very long. So anyway, so somehow Mila ends up like at Umbrella Tokyo or simulation of Tokyo, and that's where she meets Bingbing Li, and then I don't really know, and then like it looks like Sean Roberts was like he was trying to help them, but he's always been the jerk. So I was like, what? And then it like, or was it the Red Queen was trying to help her? I don't know. I literally could not figure it out. It was just sort of like action sequence, and I felt like, I guess I was just wrong that they were simulations, that they were virtual reality simulations or dreams. They were all real, because the once we get to the main plot, it's like a heist film because people who have helped Mila in the past come to try and break her out, including Boris Kodjoe, who they didn't explain how, like, they teased that he survived. We initially think he died in the fourth film, but he survived, he just didn't make it to the boat. How he ended up making it wherever she is, no idea. And where she actually was, no idea. It was just like, I think, well, there was lots of ice, I think, but was that another simulation? I don't know. All of that was confusing. And on top of all that, I have to say, it wasn't that interesting. Like, I wasn't just taking in this, like, the fun of the story and the action as much as I did in the previous one. And this has tons of stuff in the air, like tons of planes or something, or jets or something. I don't know what they are. And then you see the ice, I guess. Maybe that's supposed to be ice. I don't know. So I love the idea of it being underwater and being an ice and facility and whatever, but I just could not hold the thread of the story, other than it was like peril, had to move forward, action required, needed to get to a goal. How she met them or they found her, I was like, who knows how they move from simulation to simulation. Like, it just, I think they showed that. I can't remember. It didn't stick with me. The story did not stick with me. I thought the action was okay. Like, I thought there were parts of the action that was fun. And it did really throw me for the loop. I found the story really hard to follow, and I feel like that I find that shocking. So, and I don't know if I was just really tired or if it just wasn't linear enough. Like, I think starting the whole beginning backwards, like that, you know, threw me off. And it's funny because they've done some interesting things through the series to sort of tie the different stories together, and they often start with, my name is Alice, I work for the Umbrella Corporation. Like, and I like the continuity of that, of those kinds of pieces, and I don't mind that sometimes they're like, they go directly from like the moment it, like where they ended, like the end of the third film and the beginning of the fourth film really match up. She says, I'm gonna come get you, and then she comes and gets them, and I thought that was great. The fourth film ends on the sort of idea of hope, and then we end up with her being like basically held captive yet again, and I was like, like, you know, like there was a fight and it feels like she must have been captured, you know. So yeah, so the whole getting captured and experimented on, I'm just like, no, don't like that, don't like that. So that's always put some, like, you know, I always want her to escape, but it's like at some point you feel like, wow, it just doesn't feel like they're ever going to do that. But it is a zombie apocalyptic level of a disaster movie thing, so what could be an end result that is positive? Like, it's chaos. And this is one that I feel like, again, if I had played the games and these were different settings or scenarios or characters that I was more familiar with, then I might have had something a little bit more to hold on to, especially with the new characters. Like, there were some new characters that definitely had strong rapport with each other, but I had no sense of like why they were here, or what, if they had anything to do with her, or who is like even trying to put together like people to take down Umbrella. Like there's so, this is one of the challenges I find with zombie films generally, is like it gets to a point where unless the zombies are obliterated, like there's just this huge mass of them like outside whatever facility or place they're in. Like there's, like, unless you clear them, like, and there's some mass destruction or a, you know, a catalyst to heal them or to stop them or a bioweapon or something like that, like it just feels impossible to get away from them, or you know, I guess you can fly away, they're not gonna, like, you know, have cognitive, have like enough motion, like hand eye coordination to like fly a plane and stuff like that. But like, what, are they gonna go to the moon? Like, are they gonna live underwater, like, you know, like on the tundra? Like, I don't, like, where, like, what? So I think it's one of those challenges, is like, where can you go next? But in terms of just like action sequence against interesting backdrops, this film does have that. And I felt like there were more action sequences than Afterlife, which had a really great one to start and finish, but I didn't love, and they had some in the middle, but I just didn't love them as much as the start and finish ones were really slick. So unfortunately, I am like and I'm just shocked that I had seen this, but I didn't remember that I had seen it. Like, I literally, it wasn't just like I had already rated it, like I logged the day I watched it on Letterboxd, and I'm like, whoa. But I do vaguely remember that beginning, the suburbia bit with Michelle Rodriguez, that felt familiar. But then as the film went on, I was like, I don't remember this. I don't remember this. So, anyway, it was tough. Like, honestly, if I was not doing this challenge, I might have put this one to the side, except for Kevin Durand was in it, and I love Kevin Durand. I really, really do. Anyway, so yeah, one of the questions I asked myself for the 31 Days of Horror movies is, was it scary? And I would say no, not really, but this is, for me, feels more like action and fun type of movie as opposed to scary movie. So, which is okay. I don't expect to be scared. I think they did work in the dogs yet again. Did they? I think they did. The dogs freak me out. So if the dogs are in it, that was scary. But that's just because those zombie dog things are just like, ah. So anyway, one more film to go, and that will be complete on this series. So let me know your thoughts on Resident Evil Retribution. Have you seen it? Will you watch it? I can't imagine. I think for me it's definitely, you know, it's not my least favorite of the series, but it is not anywhere near my favorites. So anyway, hopefully the last one will deliver. I'm really curious to see where they go. Given it's called The Last or The Final Chapter, I hope it will be a lot of fun. I hope it will be. So there you go, Resident Evil Retribution. Now I will be on to the final film. Thanks so much for watching.